about a very stereotypical household where people wake up in the morning. Maybe the male members in the household go and reach out to the newspaper and think about what the women in the household are doing. Are they running to get the milk, make the tea? Even when women are sitting in front of the television, are they cutting vegetables? What really happens in the day to day has become so normalized that we don't even register it, right?
In this episode of Curiosity, we are questioning the labor done in households. To begin with, why is care work important at home? Does it impact the society in any way? Sociologist and gender studies expert Dr. Ujitra Panya explains.
This is to do with thinking about the household as a factory, churning out generation after generation of people who go and undertake certain activities in the larger economy. Think about all of these people coming to spaces of work, but where do they go back to, right? They go back to the household. So the household then becomes the site of production and reproduction.
Productive labor brings home money and is important for survival, but reproductive labor is essential for sustenance. Cooking, cleaning, caring for our well-being, looking after our family nurtures our ability to continue to work the next day.
Father figures, when they go to work and they come back stressed, the mother would say, everybody just back off, he needs to rest. Is the same kind of a support rendered to the women who are working. This is seen across class, caste strata.
We are all capable of doing our own reproductive labor, but women are expected to undertake this labor for themselves and for others. To dig a little deeper, we spoke to 3 urban women with different perspectives and distinctive styles of managing their homes.
I am Shweta Anani. I'm currently working as a vice president at a lead investment bank.
My name is Jaspal Kaur and I'm a housewife. I always wanted to be at home with my kids.
I'm Kalpana Kanebiran, a sociologist and an activist in the women's rights and the human rights movement in India. I have had the luxury of being mentally preoccupied, like every other member of my family, with work and with friends. The management of the household happens shared in greater and smaller measure between us.
I'm actually living in a joint family. These days, they're not going to school because of Corona. They're all at home only. So things do have become a lot of messy and I'm the one who is ending up putting up. But today when I told them that I'm going to have an interview, they have cleaned up everything for me.
In my household, I had a good division of labor, but they are either done half-heartedly or they are left because they are always stereotyped that this is my job, despite having a very supportive spouse.
I think it's passed on from parents who don't think that sons need to do different or better, and that the daughters continue to take on the responsibilities that the previous generation did. Socialization, the way boys are raised, the way girls are raised.
Not even a single instance I remember since my childhood, other than my mom, anybody has cooked food in the house. It's such an inherent expectation that cooking means it's a feminine role, means it has to be done by a woman.
My mother, who's just published her memoir, she's 81. One of the things that she says is that her uncle walked into the home one day and saw her just sweeping the courtyard and told her, you have to throw that broom away and go back to your books. Read Dickens, read Scott, read whatever. But if they see you with a broom today, tomorrow they will get you married and that will be the end of your life. That's the environment in which I grew up.
Marriages, if they continue to go the way they do in terms of the requirements from the parties involved, then they end up being a very important institution through which we end up reproducing gendered roles, expectations, aspirations.
My husband is not that much available. He was out most of the time. So naturally the responsibility more was on me than him. I was, very pampered kind of a daughter. I'd never cooked a meal in my parents' place.
When I got married, it was all stereotypical. He has seen the same in his household. I have seen the same in my household. Over the period of time, we tried to start dividing the responsibilities. But still, there are certain things like making tea or making curd that never came to the table or never thought of as a point of discussion.
When we came together and we decided that we wanted to make a home together, he was actually raised by a father who was a single parent. Neither of us had been naturally acculturated to assuming that there will be a woman in the house who will do all the housework. I think that the trap is there. You say that women have an innate ability, that cooking and infant care and child care comes naturally to women. These are the assumptions that actually trap women into invisible, unpaid labor.
Going back to this idea of the factory, if the next generation has to sustain, then the factory worker needs to have internalized her role really well, which is the role of the caregiver, the provider, the nurturer.
Might be brought up in that way, I don't know, but I never kept a nanny or anything like that. I did everything for my kids.
If your mother suddenly says today that she doesn't want to cook for you, not today, not tomorrow, not for the next week, she says, sorry, I just don't want to cook. Does it mean that she loves you less?
Labor of love, maa ka pyar, mother's unconditional love, at the end of the day is unrecognized work, not just limited to cooking, cleaning and caring, but there is also a more subtle, invisible form of labor that women undertake.
Sometimes I do get irritated that things should be done by this time and this is not being done. But I have a very much control over my temper. I don't raise my voice. And if I don't see things that they are being done according to the way I want it, I do it on my own.
Emotional labor means the labor of regulating your own feelings while taking care of the family's needs. This can extend to breaking down even simple tasks for others and making sure that day-to-day lives run without hiccups.
I have divided some of the tasks between the two of us, like getting the grocery weekly. That's his job. But I have to remind him 10 times in the morning. At work, I'm still keeping a tab of what should happen at home. So I think my energy or my mental state gets drained out in a constant planning and execution mode.
This mental load is so cumbersome that instead of delegating, they'd rather handle everything themselves, which keeps them on an endless hamster wheel.
Whenever I think about leisure, I don't associate that word with women at all. Think about any kind of profession. You think about doctors and judges and meet them off work hours. Now think about meeting mothers off work hours. There's no concept of meeting mothers off work hours. They're always on.
I feel I get less of relaxation time, might be. If that I could get more of that, I'll be more at peace with myself. Whatever leisure time also I'm getting, still, things are going on. Abhi ye bhi karna hai, ye bhi karna hai.
In her article, Women Aren't Nags, We're Just Fed Up, feminist author and journalist Gemma Hartley says, I find myself worrying about how the mental load borne almost exclusively by women translates into a deep gender inequality that is hard to shake on the personal level.
Is it so hard to believe that women don't grow up wanting to become company heads or follow their passions and their creative pursuits? Microeconomists would call this the opportunity cost, which means if you have a range of opportunities in front of you, when you are made to choose only the production of the household, then options of working then automatically get sidelined.
When household labor is prioritized by women alone, it causes an imbalance of power. Questioning and refusing this gendered division of labor can have dire consequences on women.
From the cases that I have dealt with, aggravated domestic violence comes when the woman withholds consent. For instance, a perfectly educated, very senior journalist whose husband and sons just threw her out of the home because she refused to perform the regular domestic labors of cooking and caring and being subservient within the home. They declared that she was mad. So women are rendered destitute if they refuse to comply with the norms of the home.
Perhaps this needs to come from the older generation, which is sitting back and realizes that the aspirations of their daughters and the sons are not looking very different anymore. The daughters also want to go to work, and if they want to marry, they want to marry somebody who would share the load with them. Right? And to have that kind of a partner, you've got to raise those kinds of men within households as well. How do you build curiosity amongst men also to want to undertake the same thing? How do you shake privilege?
I didn't do a large part of the childcare. When they woke up with colic or crying, I was not the person to wake up. I never carried them on my head. The person who did that was their father. I think it's because we had a very different home. My daughters were able to explore a completely different plane in their relationship with their father. They can talk to him about just anything. So there are ways in which men who have resisted these divisions can and have found fulfillment.
My husband is not that much available. Even when my kids were small, he's been working. He must have missed out many things, many moments. And I had enjoyed every part of that.
Gendered structures have built households for generations. What changes can we make to rethink the way our homes function?
Once my daily jobs are over and I come and lie down in my bedroom, my son especially, Mama, aap thak gaye hoge, he'll pat me. These little things, they make a lot of difference in your life.
If anything has to move, foundationally, things within the family have to move in terms of labor division, recognition that this is labor, and then to say that this is not just women's labor. And that has to come from women recognizing it as much as others around them recognizing it.
Set the boundaries. If you have assigned something, let it be somebody else's job. Don't interfere, don't do it. And I think over time, that sets the precedence for itself.
What I find actually heartening is several of my colleagues, just based on the way I am or the way they have seen my husband outside the office, they have all begun at one level or another to look at their own domestic spheres and their own relationships with new eyes.
The implications of people not crafting their real work, their real self, and only doing what is required of them means that we end up sustaining inequalities and reproducing them generation after generation at the expense of oneself. Work/labor is central to the ways in which we think about ourselves. And if we want to think about ourselves not the same way as the previous generations have, then the fight is real, because nobody's going to hand it to us in a platter and say, it's all right, I'll do half the labor. This is going to require friction. This is not going to happen very easily.